People forget that the spine is water. You know what I mean? It's like, I think the disc is 75% water.
Wow.
So it's like, if you're not drinking water, you know, what do you expect? Like, some people don't drink water.
Yeah.
And it's like they think their back's going to be okay.
Good as Gold's the official Gold's Gym Australia podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Good as Gold's podcast. We are your hosts, Em and Cal, and boy, do we have an episode for you.
We do. We have the fine gentlemen from Corrective Culture, Jake and Cal. We're going to be touching on corrective posture, looking at how simple things are to fix in your day-to-day life to help assist in correcting not just the way that your body looks, but the way it feels as well. So
Totally. We talk about the fungal cleanses that they do, the parasite cleanses that they offer, and boy, there's some juiciness in this episode.
yeah, let's head into it.
Proudly supported by Raw Energy, cafe partner for Gold's Gym Australia.
I was about to say welcome back again. God damn.
Okay, I'm going.
We got the boys here from Corrective Culture, Jake and Cal. How are you boys?
Good, man. Good. It's
Very well.
It's Friday, so we're always happy on a Friday.
Honestly, always happy on a Friday. What did you guys get up to this morning?
What did you do?
I went and had a coffee, and then I went and surfed out at Kawana.
Oh, lovely.
Nice. It was my day off today, so I was just like cruising. I purposely didn't book anyone in just so I could have
Nice.
some me time,
Me time, intentional. I like it.
Yeah, that's really nice. Carl, what did you do?
I got the sunrise, and then I had four clients this morning, so 8 till 12, and just had a girl come in with the SI joint thing. What else? And yeah, SI joint back pain. It's always back pain. Pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was interesting. She got better by the time she walked out, so she was pretty happy.
That's the goal.
That
is the goal.
Yeah.
That's what you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And is your missus still dealing with the SI joint stuff?
Yeah,
bro?
so, well, I'm going to get into that. I cannot wait to talk because this is where I want to not necessarily go, but I want to talk about injuries and common injuries. But before we go too far into that, we know a little bit about you and what Corrective Culture is, but for the people at home who have no idea, what is Corrective Culture? What is like kind of the ethos behind what you boys do? And then we'll elaborate.
tell us.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of derived from CHEK. So Paul CHEK's the founder of the CHEK Institute, and I've been studying that for nearly on 10 years. And then I met Cal, and Cal just went nuts on it and just started studying like crazy. And then we were just like, fuck, we should start something. So I guess like we've studied a bunch of different stuff too. It's not just CHEK. We've kind of branched off in our own little things and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's based around being CHEK practitioners.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like a good base. The CHEK stuff's a really good base it gives you more of a way of thinking instead of like this for that model.
Yep.
And based holistic health really. So, on all the foundations of your food, your water, your sleep. And if anyone's got any symptom and they're lacking in any of those foundations, our job and that person's job really is to look at and just be honest with themselves really of how they've manifested that pain.
Yep. What are the foundations of CHEK? Like you're saying there are like blocks to that. Is that the totem or is that a completely different thing?
Well, the totem pole is more just like a rehab conceptual. It's all just conceptual truth, right? So the totem pole is just like a rehab principle of like, okay, if someone's got knee pain, make sure you look at all these other things first before you bother with the knee.
Yep.
Like, someone's breathing is off, right? Say if they got a restriction in the rib cage and they're breathing, and they may lean in a certain way to open that up. So they may lean over that leg, right? Or plus you're breathing, right? You're dead without it. That's how important it is. And then, if their head's forward, then the hips will shift underneath that. That'll shear on the knee, shear on the patella. So a forward head could be driving things. But basically, don't go chasing the symptom. You know what I mean? You still got to fix a person. And if they're inflamed, they're just eating shit all the time. Their back pain will never go away. Because they're inflamed. Yeah. So they have to just be from all angles. And that's the missing link, I reckon. A lot of it is I believe the food and the water is a huge thing.
Yep.
Like people forget that the spine is water. You know what I mean? It's like, I think the disc is 75% water.
Yeah, wow.
So it's like, if you're not drinking water, what do you expect? Like some people don't drink water, and it's like they think their back's going to be okay, But over the course of years, they'll pay for that eventually.
And organs like take priority over everything as well. So the body will shut down everything else to look after healthy organs.
Yeah, wow.
So organs are unhealthy, then everything below that's unhealthy.
Man, this is actually a good thing on that, right? So the colon is linked to the TVA, transverse abdominis. It's just the same area, right? So if you got bloating, if someone's eating shit, I'm not even eating shit. They're just not listening to the signs that their body's telling them. They could be eating broccoli that's bloating them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just connected itself. That could inflame the colon. If they get bloating, it's something's going on, right? The body's telling them something. Then they won't be able to draw their core in because drawing in pushes on the inflamed organ, so it will cause pain. So then they have no core, and then their pelvis falls forward because they have no core, which is going to hold it. And then their hamstring may upregulate, and then the SI joint could fuck up, and all this sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it'll back down to the food and the water.
It's crazy because of how like that, you know, you talking about it, it sounds elaborate, but it's realistically quite
it makes
simple.
sense.
And then we go to our health practitioners and it's like, here, take this pill. And it just like band-aids said problem, and then take this one and this one and this one. And you're not looking at the crux of, well, the foundational issue, which is what you boys ultimately, I would say, specialize in. So like body correction, and also even just like, I know the gut cleansers and the fungal cleansers as well is a huge part of what I think I first heard about you guys through with the cleansers, and just how your skin represents so much about your internal health, like your gut biome. Like if you've got any sort of blemishes or yellow eyes or anything like that, you could tell a lot, I'm sure, by if you boys looked at my complexion, you'd be like, this guy.
Pretty good, man.
No, I appreciate it.
What about me, guys? What about me? What about me?
Yeah, I mean, through the screen anyway, but like everyone's pretty.
Before we do actually start going down that path, I do want to just ask you boys a little bit, like give us a little background about like how you kind of like fell into this. Have you always been, tip top and into this? Like, have you always been healthy? What's kind of like your background, both of you?
I want the juice. I want the
Yeah,
real.
give us some juice.
I want the juicy story.
This sort of starts it for me, so.
Yeah, I don't think I was very healthy. So to be honest, like my mum died of cancer when I was 18.
Yeah.
And she suffered a really horrible death from when I was about 12 to 18. So I saw what happens when you're unhealthy, not just like mental, emotionally, but also like what you're eating and things like that. It was such a stress head. And so I just, sorry, what was the question again?
Like, how did you get into this?
Oh, yeah, sorry. My mum, so it was through fear.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, right.
That started me. I was like, surely there has to be something out there.
Yeah.
It can't be, you can't just, get cancer, or you can't just get sick and then move on to the next thing. You know what I mean? It's like, so that started my health journey. But long story short, it wasn't until I met Donald that it all made sense. Like, who's a high-level CHEK practitioner.
Donald,
my back.
Donald Carr.
Donald Carr. Yeah, I think he's done a few podcasts here on the coast and stuff. He's amazing. He just moved up here. But yeah, it wasn't until I met him that it really kicked me on my journey, and I had a back problem, and he kind of fixed it. But yeah, definitely like I would say fear led me, and now I'm I understand a lot more. Like, you don't just get sick, There's a lot of warnings before you get sick.
On that back problem, like what started that?
Bodyboarding. So I used to bodyboard professionally. So I was in just like hyperextension a lot. And I didn't have a good core. I used to eat KFC. I used to eat Coke. Like, this is up until I was like 19 too. Like, we had cartons of Coke in the fridge, just like, it was just, it was bodyboarding, I reckon. And over, I was in Hawaii, and I had kind of like a wipeout pipe, and it just landed on my back a little bit. And I think that was like the final straw.
Yeah.
And then I saw like chiros, physios for 2 years. I could hardly sleep.
Damn.
Like if you know the injury, it's called a spondylolisthesis, which is when like the L5 actually slips forward off the sacrum.
Ooh.
And a significant amount is 25%, but mine was over 50%. So it was like a really forward slippage, and it can put pressure on the spinal cord and the spinal nerves and stuff like that. So it was quite painful. And
good.
The only thing, I saw a low back specialist. Everyone just told me they wanted to fuse my spine.
Yeah.
And then I really thought like, all right, I'll give this one last thing a go, this CHEK stuff a go, and I'll commit to it fully. And within 2.5 weeks, I noticed the pain went from like 100% pain. Like, I was probably 8 or 9 out of 10 in pain to down to like a 2.
Wow.
So I just became like a crazy Christian, like, and I was just like slapping people with a Bible, like, it healed me.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And now you preach
But
it.
I think that's so cool, Cal. We're going to get into your background too, but Jake, that's so cool that like, you know, you found something that worked and you went hard into it,
Yeah.
and then like because you actually truly believe that it worked, you're like now living and literally breathing and
Exactly.
doing what I guess Donald did for you, in a sense, right? Like he helped you, you found that, and as well, I'm sure you did a lot of your own hard work. It wasn't just all someone else.
Yeah, I think for me it was a physical journey. Like I wanted my body to look good at the start too. Like once I got out of pain, I wanted my body to look
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, good.
Yeah, aesthetically.
And then I was aesthetically. And then I was like, I went down to do HRC with Paul CHEK for 7 days, and I realized that like the body doesn't really mean too much. It's like about how you feel inside your body.
Yeah.
And I went through a whole mental, emotional, like healing process, which was just so rewarding. And seeing so many clients, like me and Cal see quite a few clients now, and just seeing everyone live their journey and get better. And we often say, like, it's weird, we'll be changing the body and they just quit their job randomly and go and do a completely different thing in life. It's like there's no coincidence that stuff happens.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, that's
And,
epic.
and Cal, your background, go as juicy as you want as well. I think it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So I guess like I was always into movement. My actually first intro to movement, besides like school footy and that, was like CrossFit, which is funny, right? Now it's like, now I wouldn't really I recommend that so highly, you know. But I used to think I wanted to open a CrossFit gym, so I got to experience that. Did it for 5 years, and I got injured. I hurt my shoulder, hurt my lower back doing a deadlift. Just I wasn't connected to my body. I was, and that's the thing. This is the whole goal of the CHEK stuff, man. It's about realizing that your body's wisdom is telling you so much, like at all times. From like being thirsty, for going to the toilet, for going for a walk, for having sleep instead of coffee, for not doing that, doing this instead, like all the time. And this is where like it's about how good can you listen to that really, you know? And for this food, if it bloats me, like I get girls that bloat off fucking gluten, and then they get a test and tell them they can have gluten, but they're not intolerant. But every time they eat gluten, they bloat. So they're caring about this test, you know what I mean? Instead of what the body's telling them.
Yeah.
And it's just like with everything, it's about doing that. And it's hard. It's hard work. Like I'm still getting better at it. Like I just found out the other day, beetroot makes me feel like shit. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? And I had beetroot and then my face was all like sort of super tired the next day. But most people wouldn't realize that. They just think they were super tired.
Yeah.
But I know that's rare for me.
Yeah.
And then I know that happened off something else that has lectins in it. So I'm like, all right, I can stay away from that. Back to the path anyway. So yeah, that got me into movement. But honestly, my dad was into this stuff called Feldenkrais and still is. And Feldenkrais it's Moshe Feldenkrais, and the whole slogan behind that is awareness through movement. So my whole life, like honestly, so from when I was born, was like he wouldn't let us. He was into infant development, made sure we crawled, did all these, you know, didn't let us jolly jumper, all those sort of things. Yeah. He'd constantly talk, like look at people's posture. How many ways can you stand up? Can you spiral? How can you spin? Like all this random shit that I just ignored. You know, I didn't give a fuck about it, right?
Yeah.
But it must have imprinted on me somehow, you know, because it's the way I look at people now too. And then, but I didn't have the avenue because I was sort of like thinking, like I want to be like maybe physio or something like that. Yeah. But then I don't want to go to uni. It just didn't excite me, and plus I didn't want to take people's backs. I didn't want to do this, and it just bored me a little bit. Yeah. And I went to a physio for my shoulder, and this was recommended. This girl was like done it for 28 years or something. And then now that I know what I know, it's like she gave me nothing, told me I was fine, and now I knew what it was, right? Yeah. But it was just I just realized how poor. Now I realize how poor the whole sort of the standard of the profession is. And then when I met Jake, he told me about his back injury, which is a pretty, you know, like 7 people told him to fuse his spine or something, you know? Yeah. And then I was like, why did that work? And why did everything else not work? And then I looked into it. I looked heavy into it. And then I was just hooked, man. I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's about you owning your shit and doing it all yourself. And then really just understanding the lang tensions of the body and posture and the spine a bit more from a conceptual point of view. Yep. So like if we see someone, and the way the CHEK system is, it's like there's a 2-hour assessment no matter what, really. And I think the higher levels go up to like a 5-6 hour assessment if you need them to, the vision and the jaw and stuff. But you take a range of motion assessment of every major muscle group of the pelvis and the body. You take the range of motion of everything. So you have a folder to refer to of like, okay, this is what's tight, this is what's not tight. Could this be causing this down below? This is what their moving patterns are. This is the way they're lunging. This is the way they're squatting. These are all movements that you need in life.
Yep.
And it's just so in depth. And I was like, okay, this is why. And you learn rapidly when you take all that information because you really start to see patterns in people.
Yep.
And you start to see things that you don't see in books, you know?
Yep.
Like you can't, it's like you see like all of a sudden you have 10 people coming with the same thing. And then you look at their numbers and there's all these similarities. Like this person's hips are always twisted this way and it flares out SI joint, and then you start to see these patterns.
Yep.
And then you have a theory behind it and you put it into work. And if it works, it works. And, you know, a lot of it, it does work. Like we get some pretty broken people. Like the girl this morning, she's seen 3 years of physios and she walked out with like a significant less amount of pain. And she was like really, when they walk out, they're hooked. They're like, fuck, all right, I get it now. Like there's a missing link. And then obviously, as you guys know, but they don't know, like when I was younger, I wasn't partying as I was, and I got caught with 100 pills. I went to jail for 7 months at Woodford in Brisbane. And then lastly at the farm. So I did 7 months, and that was where I saw what posture, how people treated you with posture. So I saw, like I walked in just knowing this shit already a little bit with my dad. So I walked in with like a puffed up chest and a tall head because we're just gorillas, right? So people forget that shit. And this is happening everywhere, any business meeting, everything. Like all these things happen. But I had this fake posture that made myself look confident when really I was scared. And so was everyone else. But, you know, it's part of the game. And then I saw a guy come in with poor posture, and then he just had all the shit taken off him. Like all the brothers would just take his shit. So because he was weak and his posture represents that, you know? So I think that's a big thing. And that's where he talks about how you can change the emotions by changing the posture, because you do this. And some people that are here all day long, if they put themselves there, that's a weird feeling for them. They don't feel comfortable. Yeah. They want to be back here.
Yeah,
you know?
they feel seen.
So you can do the exercise. But if you do the exercise and they still got this mind shit running in their head, they'll go in a couple of months. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I sort of that's the story really.
Yeah. And so you boys landed there. Now you're doing this, you know, for a living. You're busy. You see a lot of people. What are like the common? I mean, do we call them injuries, or what are the common
what are the symptoms that
you're
see?
Always dealing with? And let's go maybe female and then male, because I'm pretty sure they'd be somewhat different.
Yeah. Back pain, you reckon? Like back pain for number one.
Yeah.
Back pain and just patterns you see. So for female, okay, so this morning, right, standard, it's like I've seen this 100 times. And this girl, lower back feels so tight all the time. Yeah. And around the SI joint area, glute sort of always feels tight. And the lower back's just real compressed. And then upper back, mid-trap tightness, they always complain about that. That creates tension headaches, right? So that's super common. And that's a postural thing. So what I found is that the females generally, especially if they're postnatal, have too much anterior tilt, right? If they're too anteriorly tilted, say they've had a baby and there's weight in the front of their pelvis that's pulling them down. And we're in the Western world, so we're sitting now, we're not still in tribes, walking, lunging, shit like that, right? So all of a sudden the pelvis will tilt forward, that lower back compresses, that glute then is really taut. It's actually sort of not tight, it's more taut. And generally you feel the long muscles in pain, right? So so she feels like she wants to stretch her glutes all the time, but I checked her glutes and they're actually very long, right? And her hamstrings were very long. And then she's been trying to do hamstring stretches in yoga, and it would be the worst thing for her. So it was her hip flexors that was driving this compression in the lower back, right? And at the same time, just this whole posture makes all that wrong. So they're going to feel like it's tight all the time, right? But it needs to be, this all needs to be freed up at the front of their chest, because the chest is pulling them down and it's lengthening the back. And when the head goes forward, it compresses that sort of C7 area. There's that orbital nerve that runs, so they'll get headaches to the eye in the front of their head and shit like that. And that's like a hinge point at their cervical spine going forward. So yeah, for the females and males, right? But I find males generally more tucked under and flat back. This is just a pattern I've seen, right? And females are generally more anteriorly tilted. And say if they've worn heels, that hikes their heels, like literally hikes it up, quad loads them. if they're loading the quads, and I think of it like a sponge, the quads are contracting all day long, they dry out. Anything that's contracting all day long is going to dry out, right? Because it's not oscillating between on and off. It's on. So it dries out, pulls the pelvis forward, compresses the lower back, shifts their weight forward, loads the calves more, loads the Achilles more. And whatever maybe the genetic weakness will be the symptom, but it's still back down to posture. And posture is not about telling someone to stand upright and tall. It's about retensioning them there. And it's just the optimal position of the joint. That's what it is. It's not looking nice. That comes along for the ride. It looks nice, but it's the optimal position of the joint. So if you're not doing that, what are you doing? Are you not bringing the optimal? You're trying to strengthen everything without releasing first what's dried and tight. And that's, I think, is a big missing link in the industry is
I agree.
A lot of, they don't balance the length tensions first. They just go straight to the strengthening. But the strengthening doesn't work if the length tensions are tight. If those quads are tight, it's going to lengthen those lower abdominals, and they can do all that pelvic bullshit they want. But if they don't release those quads and bring that pelvis back under, that stomach will keep separating. So that's females. What do you reckon about males?
Yeah, I mean, we attract completely different clients. Like definitely what he said is very common as well. I get a lot of, like yesterday I had a guy with just depressed shoulders that were below your shoulders should line up with T2, and his were just really depressed. So we just did shrug work, and that took all his ribcage pain that he had away. So like, just, I don't know, I get really different kind of clients that just it's never really, it's funny, like we did the SI joint course recently in spinal pathology course, and I got people with, that really needed SI joint work. So every client the last week or two has been that. Like three this week with SI joint. It's just all SI joint stuff. Even when I was there, one of my clients said, I just done my SI joint, and I was like, oh, I know what to do now.
What do you think is like super common with the SI joint? Like, especially for women more? Like, do you see that the SI joint is...
Do you want to quickly also explain, so sacroiliac joint, if the listener doesn't know what that is, what is it doing with the sacrum?
Well, it's a joint that kind of oscillates between when you walk. So it kind of like, they used to think it was just stuck there, but it actually turns like this, and the ilium actually goes like this. So the joint can get like laxity in between it, or it can get too tight. So that would be an SI joint dysfunction.
And so with the SI joint, it's where the sacrum meets the pelvis for the people that they have the ilium, which is one half of the pelvis, right? So there is a little bit of motion in that joint. There should be a little bit of motion in that joint. But an unstable SI joints hate anterior tilt. Because it's all stable, because it's slack all in the tissue. So that there should be ligamental tension stabilizing that. But as soon as you're anteriorly tilted, that back gets closer together. So then there's going to be laxity, there's going to be motion there, because it should be tension. So what actually happens is common for SI joint things is very, like, you want to make sure the anterior tilt goes. So you want to make sure that the flexors, the QL, the lower back is released. And they need to strengthen their glutes and their hamstrings to pull it back down. But they also need to make sure the core is really the thing that should hold it there. The glutes and the hamstrings just help. And what you'll find is the hamstrings will tighten up, and you'll release it, and it will tighten back up again, because the hamstring's trying to stabilize the SI joint. So hence why maybe if someone has an SI joint dysfunction and they stretch their hamstrings, they may feel like the pain is worse. Same with Jake's. It's like almost a similar somewhat approach, because his was a spondy, right? So his spine is slid forward. So he needs that sort of more level platform. So if he's anteriorly tilted, it falls off. So same thing for him. He can't stretch his hamstrings, otherwise it brings on pain.
Even rolling him brings on pain.
Really?
Because as soon as I go into anterior tilt, my pelvis is unlocked. So form and force closure in the pelvis means, like, form closure is when the joints actually lock together, and then force closure is when the muscles lock the pelvis together. So if I release my hamstrings, that goes into anterior tilt, and I've got an unlocked pelvis, and I can literally feel, I'll grab my back and go, oh my God, I feel unstable. And that's from releasing the hamstrings. So it's pretty cool.
And to even throw more confusion into it, the way I understand it, right, is that you said in the very beginning, food and water is key. So say someone has sacroiliac and their core is meant to be holding everything together, but they're eating something that's making them bloating, which makes their core not work. They need to fix the food, water first before they fix the sacrum.
Without a doubt.
Definitely. And a lot of the time you find they fix the food and the water, you don't have to touch the pelvis.
Right. So so going to like the core thing of, and on that, like, you guys do a parasite and gut cleanse. What does that look like? Jake, you're about to embark on like
Cleanse?
the cleanse? Is that the parasite cleanse, or is that a different?
Yeah, so the cleanse is something me and Callan have kind of designed off Doug Hockman's work and Ben Greenfield's work, and of course Paul CHEK's work, and we've kind of mixed this concoction. But it's really like, it is a parasite and fungal infection cleanse. So we're made of good and bad parasite. We are a parasite pretty much. So we need to keep them in balance. So a parasite or fungal infection will happen when you're out of balance and you start to get weak. You're a weak organism, and fungal parasite will take over, kind of thing like that. So yeah, would you say?
They're there to break you down and bring you back into the soil, right? If you're not living by the rule. The thing is, they only eat sugar. They all eat sugar, right? So you got to remember that, like, an apple these days is like 3 times the size of a wild apple. You know what I mean? A banana is like way bigger. So we all have way too much sugar in our diet, especially in winter when you wouldn't really have much sugar at all. So you have a natural parasite cleanse. Or a lot of these things it's just a candida thing, right? It's candida. But don't think of it as something that you catch. That is there, right? But they have to be able to survive inside of you. You know what I mean? So our cleanse is more, you do have the supplements that sort of kill parasites and then binders that sort of bring it out. But that's such a small part of it. That just speeds it up. You got to change the environment. So that's why it's basically no sugar, no caffeine. And we throw in all these extras to actually reset people, man, because that's some crazy results. Like no sugar, no caffeine. I'm having a 10-day break with caffeine at the moment because we should every once in a while. You know?
Your adrenals get fried.
Yeah, they get fried, and and especially for females, man. Like Paul talks about, if there's a female with any cycle shit going on, first thing is off coffee, right? And I've seen that, right? And that's hard, right? Tell my sister that. Fuck, she, but
yeah, the parasite cleanse is also like, it's a complete reset of your diet.
Exactly.
So much, I got a client going through it at the moment, and I can tell she's having the symptoms of the parasite cleanse, which is, I'm craving sugar, I feel tired, lethargic, what do I do? And it's not until she finishes the cleanse and she starts to introduce things again, she'll understand why that was happening. She'll be like, okay, well, that's because I wasn't having enough of this. You really learn to be really intuitive with your body after it, and when you're adding food back in, it's a complete reset.
So like an oil change of a car.
Well, my girlfriend found out cauliflower was making her sick, right? I've had people find out. I had a guy with a disc bulge where garlic was creating the pain. So because it was the same thing, it was inflaming his colon, and then he lost ability, right? So when he tested it and he ate it again later, and it brought on the pain. So basically he's like FODMAP, you know what I mean? And I've it just lets you, because you're so limited, you just know, I feel like shit today, or I feel good today. What was that? And you're really getting like honest with yourself, and it's sort of like a food information thing while cleaning it out with any heavy metals, because it's all the clay and the charcoal. But man, how's this? So we had someone write in from South Africa recently. Never knew him. This is a crazy story. And this girl, so it was the boyfriend, but he was writing for her. His girlfriend was sick for like 2 years, right? Like badly sick. And she had all these tests from all these doctors, and she had lesions in her liver. So lots of lesions, like holes in the liver. And 2 years of scans and shit, and no doctor could help her. And I think he just follows us because of Jake's bodyboarding thing, right, in South Africa. But he ended up friends with her, and he said thousands of liver flukes came out of her, right, and him too. He didn't have any symptoms though, and he goes like instantly better. And she was told she was going to have cancer in the next couple of years, and all her symptoms are gone, right? So it's super. And in the next 10 years, the world will know how big parasites are. Because Paul's like, this is drilled in the CHEK shit. He goes, a lot of people have parasite infections. And I reckon like 30% of my clients, if not sometimes more, sometimes have something come out. Liver fluke, roundworm. I had a guy with a cervical disc injury, and I just put him on it to heal, whether they got a parasite or not. They're just eating good food.
Exactly.
Nothing will hurt.
So that's why I've never had it. I've done it heaps, never had a parasite, but I do it because I save money, because I'm cooking all my own food. I'm having a break, and I'm just eating.
And it's nutrient dense food, right? Because you just mainly, no sugar.
Yeah, and you save time. Like, you're not going to a cafe, just getting shit done. You feel like you're just on point. And he had a tapeworm come out. You know what I mean? So it's like I had heaps of tapeworms, had heaps of liver flukes, roundworms, and a lady had 20 years of hip pain and had I'm talking like this much of that mucoid plaque shit come out, and it bled. She goes, she nearly went to the hospital. She goes, it bled and came off like my wall, which that's what she thinks. And then the next day, like this much shit came out. It looked like a kilo, you know? And she goes, I felt like, she was 60, and she goes, I felt like I was 40 again. I thought I was just getting old. So,
I've got
for years.
goosebumps. I'm like,
because I've also seen like, you know, psoriasis and skin, like topical skin disease get cleaned up as well. Like, even like
through
you know,
parasite cleansers.
Yeah, like I've seen even on your stuff, Cal, like girls that have got, you know, acne or any sort of like, you know,
the
skin
skin's cleared up.
Yeah, the skin's
doing
cleaned
it.
up completely as well, because obviously something is not agreeing in their body, right?
Fungal, right? Yeah, exactly. It's a stomach thing, right? The skin's breaking out. It's the stomach every time. So they're eating either something that's fucking with their guts, right? The food, or too much sugar, right? And it's feeding off the sugar, right? So you're just starving the stuff, man. And how a girl we know, what's her name? She had UTIs for like, how long? 15 years or some shit? I don't know. Yeah, like a long time, most of her life, right? And then on the cleanse, she had the worst one of her life. Yeah. And then the next day it went away, and then she's never had one since.
Wow.
So I think they're like just screaming and dying and like,
yeah.
You know, and then I don't even know, right? But all I know is that every single one of my clients, I chuck them on it if they're willing to do it, because for me, it's going to lower their inflammation, heal their back. I got a guy right now who they wanted to fuse his spine a month ago, and he's now surfing, right? And he's done everything, man. He's on bone, like he lowered his inflammation, and it's not about calories, right? Like he lost just all this water weight, and like his skin got better and shit. Those little, like, when I look at someone, I don't really care about their weight so much. That obviously that represents the thing, but I'm looking at the nails, their eyes, if they got dark circles under their eyes, like all those little things. That's what I care about. That's when you know when someone's like glowing, you know?
Yeah.
And also, like they say, herpes simplex 2 isn't curable, which is like there's oral herpes and then, you know, the other herpes, but the cleanse can heal that as well. So that's a systematic virus that sits in the base of your spine, and it can heal that. It can heal that over 6 months. So it's a long cleanse, but it's actually I've looked into it, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, like Doug Kaufman's fungal cleanse, basically any long-term candida cleanse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With like everything.
Ours is really strict.
Yeah, ours is strict. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because I I get cold sores like literally under my nose, and it's so weird. But I haven't had one in I haven't had one in a long time.
Touch wood.
Let's touch it. But it is interesting you say that, and it's like, because everyone says that you actually can't like cure cold sores, right?
Yeah.
And these
they say heaps of shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the thing, and that's why, like, talking to you boys as well, it's funny because, like, the stuff you say, it does seem so like hard to fathom, but it's literally so like simple in its form. Like, you got knee pain, look at what else is happening in your body. It's not just don't go and see it and something about your knee, and like
just the physio.
You throwing around words like fusing, like that's a huge, to fuse a spine or to fuse, like even my wife, they asked her to fuse her sacroiliac joint, so her pelvis was to be put plates on, right? That was a possibility to band-aid.
That's just band-aiding
something else, and now she doesn't need that. She's
exactly
like getting better. It's still a problem, but the doctor was like, we'll just fuse it.
How important?
Like, what?
Yeah, it's so wild. How important would you say, boys, it is to like really care for your body, and like what are some ways like right now that anyone listening can start to like work on their body?
Water.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
Are we talking
filtered, pure 4 liters?
So like a good spring water, and then put Celtic sea salt in it, or just get a good reverse osmosis thing for your house. Like, I think even like showering in water, like that's shit. So we've got to change it here as well. But showering in toxic water is bad. There's fluoride, chlorine, lead, lots of trace, heavy metals in there. So that would be number one, because we are made of water. We're basically like 75% water. So we need good water to start. That'll, especially for women with their hormones regulated. And then organic food. Like, if you're not winning if you're not eating organic food. And the studies are so up and down with it, but like the organic's only been a thing since like, the early 1900s and before. There was no such thing as organic, because we were eating organic.
We were, that's
exactly.
the thing. Now they're labeling it organic, but before it was like,
it was just the normal.
Even like your grandparents were growing shit,
Yeah.
Now.
And were your grandparents' grandparents obese?
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, never.
Well, you even look at those pictures now of like the 1940s and 50s, and they're all chilling out on the beach, and everyone's looking schmick, and all the kids in the freaking gymnasium
Yeah.
are doing calisthenics and pull-ups and push-ups and strong as shit. And now you got, well, this is where this next question will come anyway. So water, you can, I don't know if we finished that. Water, organic food, like
Anything
I
else?
reckon from a movement perspective, I'm really, really, really big on hydrating your tissue with like deep tissue work and foam rolling work and balls and lacrosse balls and things like that. I think it's a really underappreciated thing in the industry, and I think it's overlooked. And this is like, I've had some crazy, so was Jake. Like, I had a guy on 3 years of painkillers, and they were booking him for hip surgery, and he had to get a ball in his glute, and he got rid of all his pain. You know, that was a long time. Right?
So just fascial release.
Fascia release, because it'll always pull you. You know, tissue will always pull you somewhere. It won't really push you. There's a couple of scenarios that'll push you, but if you can overview it, it'll always pull you. So if you have like a trigger point, like a knot, it's going to pull everything towards that knot. So it's going to limit your range of motion, and you can't stretch that out because it's dry. When under the skin, it looks dry. So when you roll it out, it hydrates it, and it gives it back its length. It gives this tissue back its standard, and this lymphatic flow. We had a girl that we got an online lumbar curve program, like excessive lumbar curve, and she had a swollen hand for 2 years, and she wrote in and said her swollen hand's gone, and there's nothing in that program that does the arm really. It does the pec and the rib cage, so there must have been some lymphatic blockage somewhere there, and it's like, I don't know how powerful it is, because I've gone through my entire body, like, I mean, forearms, behind the ear, like everything, and I don't really have a spot left on me now that's like painful, and everyone does, you know. So for Ella with the SI joint thing, man, if they wanted to fuse it, then that probably means they think it's unstable. So it's moving too much. So then she should probably be heavily rolling out her hip flexors and her quads, because that's going to make it unstable. But the rule is, for me personally, I don't stretch a muscle unless I hydrate it first. So if I'm going to do a quad stretch, I'm not going to stretch it until it's fully broken up. Every trigger point's broken up out of it. Because you get 20 degrees, 30 degrees out of it on the spot. And then you can stretch. So it's like stretching, pulling on dry tissue.
And
I think it's a big thing.
Yeah, that's really important.
I mean, even to like, that's like, I would say, even on like that, the macro level of things, whereas like even in the gym, it's like, there's like, if you got shitty form, don't do the movement.
Exactly, you
with
don't
load.
add weight to the bar.
You're not going to
Exactly.
add, like, but talking, like someone listening is like at the gym and like benching and they're only going a quarter way pushing up. It's like, there is no point doing that if you can't even do a push up correctly yet. Like, baby steps. So I think that's great.
Like same in your in exactly what you're saying. It's like, start small, literally.
What do you? Oh, you got. It sounded like you're about to go. Do you have one?
No.
Oh, I've been itching to ask this question. Thank the Lord. Our society. So you brushed on it before. This Western society, we sit in the chair, we sit at the office, we sit at the couch, we sit at home. We're sitting 24/7 pretty much, and it's looking like we're going to be doing that for the near future. Kids are playing games, we're on phones, our heads are tilted forward. What does society say about our posture now, and what are things that people could do to break that up?
So I just think, like, once you do enough, like when you work with us, you sort of start to learn a lot of tools that you get to figure out your own body and the things that happen to you, right? So for me, I do jiu-jitsu, which is unnatural, right? So the back of my shoulders will always get tight. If I get a ball in there once a week, I'm pain-free. But if I want to do jiu-jitsu and I start doing a couple of weeks of hard rolling, I'll start to get back of shoulder pain because they're getting overworked, right? So I got to get a ball in there, rehydrate it, because it's like a contraction, like a sponge. It contracts and pushes all the water out again. So it's unnatural. I should be pulling like a bow, but if I'm doing this, I want to do it for like 2 hours a night, bloody 5 days a week or something. I've got to have a bit of a routine that counters that. Same. So right now with sitting, while our femur's closer to our trunk, so our hip flexors are short. There's fibers of our glute getting stretched. So we need something that's going to contract that glute. We need some hip flexors. I think are a big one from sitting. You got to like hydrate it because again, all the water's pushing out of it like this. And then we stretch it. And then you need a really good rule of thumb is like same with training athletes, right? We want to hit that type 1 sort of fiber for endurance fibers, so tonic fibers. So you sort of want to get a good like 3-minute time and attention when you want to change posture. So you can't say if someone like say you want to fix someone's forward shoulders with like a row. I can't give them 3 sets of 10 at like a heavier weight. That's not going to have time and attention. They need to have a weight that they can hit that good 3 minutes or at least a minute and then they can't rest for longer than 20 or 30 seconds and hit that for 3 minutes in total, right?
Yeah.
And it even when you do it, you feel the complete difference. Like you drop the weight and it feels like being pulled back because that's endurance. It's holding tone. It holds posture all day long. And that's what all my rehab, all long time and attention, all not even really loaded. It's all just like Swiss ball, long time, boring shit. But when you get up, you feel the difference really quickly. If you hydrate it first, you got to hydrate it, make it malleable so you can set it. And then you set it with something like that.
I actually love... Oh, sorry, you go, Jake.
Oh, I was just going to say standing feels a lot easier. And it just so happens like the seated position is the like number one worst position for spinal discs as well. So
it's
just loaded.
It's making me like
I've like got my legs crisscrossed my
because even that
sit up straight.
even that the forward head is a huge thing because like the further forward we go, gravity's pushing down, putting like weight, and that's where like that tension in the neck comes from. And I know you boys released a program recently of that forward head posture, and you see so many people like walking around getting calluses like formed, calcium forms on the back to hold it. Yeah, there's always that one little lady who's like at the shops at like.
I actually.
What can people do to reset that? Like get on a foam roller and just lay there, like. Out.
Yeah, that's an option, right? Like if you're just laying on the ground, well, your head's not forward on the ground. You know what I mean? Yep. So if you're on flat ground, it's there's a subtle stretch going on, but you'd have to lay there for a good 10 minutes. You just got to look at, if you think of the body as a cobweb, one big cobweb. This is what I really want to teach the world, like one huge cobweb. You got to look at where's short on that cobweb. So you don't need to know anatomy like I do, but like the average person doesn't need to know it. Yep. So if someone's head's forward, right, they're being pulled forward. So all this tissue in front of the neck, sternum, chest needs to be released. So the hip flexors have a fascial, like the quads have a fascial connection to the abdominals. So again, if those hip flexors are tight, it sort of pulls it down. And especially those SCMs, those two thick cords to the side of the neck, they'll actually hyperextend the neck and pull it forward. And then you got to think at the back then is all short. So you need to take a ball, like a big thick ball or a roller or something, to those suboccipitals at the base of the skull and the neck. So you get the base of the skull, you get in front of it, and then you need to do something that activates it. And a really good rule of thumb is just bring your head where you want when you do every exercise. When you do a push-up, when you do everything. Like train your posture. So a really good concept is train your posture into your movement. Put yourself in the posture you want to be. Susie never got a good tip of imagining holding a tennis ball between your chin and your sternum like this. Because it'll activate those deep flexors.
And that would be like true neutral spine then, right? A lot of people talk about, in a bent over row, be neutral spine, but their head's like this, but their spine's neutral, but their head's forward. Tucking that in would technically then give you
and that's why mirrors are so important. Like everyone should work out with a mirror in front of them so they can see what's actually going on.
Yeah, it's not about vanity. It's like literally checking. Like you can look at yourself.
A bit of both.
And if you don't have a mirror, film yourself because if it looks ugly, it is ugly. And that's
exactly.
Just like, if you want muscles to co-contract together and your body to work in perfect form, you need to look good. It needs to look fluent.
Yeah, like I try and obviously you can't in most gyms, but I train without a shirt on as much as I can because I'm pinpointing my oblique line and my chin over my that's how accurate I want to be. And it's like it's sort of once you start doing that, like it's hard to look at a shirt. You can't see shit through the shirt. Yeah. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, Jan would get people in their undies, like this chick that I did a traineeship through. She's like, in your undies, I need to see everything. That's a rule in the gym now.
Well, that's even like in the dojo, just in the jocks.
I love that you said, Cal, before, you're like, it's boring shit. Like sometimes it's just boring shit that you're doing that you need to do and that you need to like actually put in the time and effort. Is that something that you're really big on? Like doing the boring shit basically?
Yeah, treat it like servicing a car, like you're servicing your body. Every Wednesday I do it to my body. So every Wednesday, because we don't work Wednesdays. So I go in and I roll out. I do the stability stuff. I look at my body. I try and unwind things. I always balance your left and your right side. So if one side's tighter than the other, correct that. So I won't stretch it evenly ever unless they need to be stretched evenly. So if my left pec's tighter, I go left, right, left pec stretch.
That's the best thing about the deep tissue stuff is like giving people a tool to be intuitive with their body. Like you say, hey, do one side, and if it doesn't feel bad, don't do it. Do the other side that feels bad because your body just tells you it's a gift.
Yeah, symmetry. Yeah, so definitely that boring shit. It's it's
Needs to
you just
happen.
feel so good when you walk out of there. Like when you do it and you learn it and you learn how to, you need someone like guiding you a little bit. You know, it took me a while, you know, but once you do it enough yourself, you really start to connect. And I've learned so much on my own body. Like I've learned heaps on my own body and seeing like, okay, if I had a little twist, if I tried this, does it take the twist out, you know?
Yeah.
And then if it does, cool. And I release one thing and check, so I know, okay, that muscle has
Yeah.
an action on it.
Mhm.
And I tell my clients to do the same thing so they're empowered. Instead of doing the whole pelvis, I like, say they got a hip impingement, I'll say, release this and let's see. And if it doesn't fix it, cool, release this and let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they find one that fixes it. But if we did the whole thing, then we wouldn't know what one to direct at if they were short on time, you know, later on in years. So it's cool. It's really empowering. The goal is to teach the client and empower them. And like I think about literally breaking them back down with tissue work, doing specific stretches that they need from the assessment, then setting them with static sort of long time and attention holds, and then unwinding any rotational imbalances, and then ingraining the lunge, twist, push, pull, bend, all movement patterns. Because once you learn them, every motion is just that. If I throw a ball, it's a lunge, twist, and a push. So it's all that sort of stuff. Once you know how to do it all individually, you can tie them together, and then you know how to move functionally. And it's a life process. I'm still working out my stuff. But, you know, I did CrossFit for 5 years. I've done MMA for like 4 or 5 years. Done jiu-jitsu for 10 years. I scaffolded for 10 years, and I got no pain, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to be the example of that.
Yeah, and if people listening to this episode, you know, aren't on the coast where you guys are, what's their next best bet?
Yeah, probably our online programs.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't even know who to refer to because unless they're like some Crew and Goldie, but like I can't. Yeah, even
It's
like
just like not enough
even
out there, right?
they're doing the same thing. You know, we've still made our own little system of it. Like even we both work in our own way. Like every CHEK practitioner has their own like thing.
Yeah.
Like one of our mates does sex coaching. He's a CHEK practitioner. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like everyone's got their thing. Like so. I love it because you get to be creative and make your own little system, but we're all still based off that same base.
Yeah.
That's the soul. That's most of it, right?
Yeah.
But it's just what those choices we choose for the person.
I love it.
Damn.
I've learned a lot today.
Yeah. Even like I know like some of this stuff, but it always like just I'm so curious afterwards. I want to ask like 1,000 questions about
like
different things, but
even like being told, you know, to drink filtered water, it's like something that I try and do, you know, every day as a practice, absolutely like non-negotiable. But like there are certain times where, you know, I'll fill up out of the tap and it's just like
cop some heavy metals.
literally straight in
You
there.
need to do a cleanse twice a year, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Yeah, like I can't cop tap water at all anymore unless I was forced. It's like I just can't do it. It's like same thing. I can't vegetable oil. It's like I can't go to any cafes that have veggie oil and shit anymore. You know what I mean? It's like it's hard. It's fucking hard. Once you slowly get better and better and better, and your core values get more solidified.
Exactly.
I learned all this shit, but I was still falling off. But also have a drink once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like balance.
You're trying to, you're doing it like 95% because it's like I saw a meme the other day and it's like walking into a grocery store and like reading the back of a label and you're just like seeing all these numbers. You're like, put it down. You're like, all right, well, I'm not eating that. I'm just going to go home and have my steak. Like, and even that, it's like there's so much in that. But I think the takeaways from this that I've got, like people listening, that if they are, I would say, experience any pain, discomfort, or if they've been doing the chasing the tail of physio, doctor, chiro, there are options out there, and like you boys offer a great service. And I believe that there is more knowledge than just the knowledge of the stock standard. Like the chiro is like, your back's
exactly.
your back's cooked, brother.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like not just taking
they can be amazing. Like when you need to refer. Just like the whole picture is just such a big thing. Like
it's nearly like get curious.
You're not looking at the whole picture. It's kind of like, well, fuck.
It's sort of like unplugging from the Matrix. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And it's like, there's no going back. It's like, I can see it in UCal, you know what I mean? It's like, you sort of know it. And it's like, I feel like one day you probably fucking do the CHEK course or something because I feel like you'd love it. Because it's like a superpower amongst the other shit. Like it's easy to out.
I do love it. And I think as well for like a lot of, you know, when you think about bodybuilding or you think about gyms and you think about people doing movements and they're so hyper focused on looking a certain way to try and chase that good feeling where like simple things like, are you sleeping enough? Are you drinking enough water? Are you like fueling your body with the right stuff? But also like, I mean, I'm guilty some days. I go in and do a workout, like an hour and a bit of like powerlifting, intense squats, deadlifts where I'm putting so much tension in it. And then I'm like, 5 minutes left to stretch, but I've worked out for an hour and a half and I'm only giving myself 5 minutes. Like I need to, I know I need to
like catching yourself out in those,
and then,
in those
and
moments.
I've like I feel as though my ADHD nature is like, I'm lying on the ball and I'm stretching out. I'm like, this is good. This feels good. And I'm like, I should
but this
go.
is when you got to meditate.
Yeah, this is where I got to, and then I got to go. So I know we've really, I think, got to take a focus on stretching. There's no one ever in the stretching area at my gym. There's everywhere they're throwing around weights, like putting biscuits on everything. No one's stretching.
Take the focus on foam rolling first, bro. Think hydrate your tissue first, then focus on your stretching. But I'd recommend cleaning out your whole body. Like, and I mean bone deep. I don't mean some soft blue roller. I mean like deep work, real deep work, and unwinding that. Like what I actually tell people is do a stretch. Say do a hip flexor stretch, like a couch stretch. Put a finger on where it feels super tight. Then go take the ball there for 2 to 5 minutes and move it a little bit. And try and activate the quad a little bit by like bending your knee or something. Yeah. And then go back to your stretch and then you'll understand how much better it feels. Yeah. And then you can, but I keep using the stretch to feel, because you'll feel the next kink in the cobweb then. Yeah. Because you'll feel somewhere else. Keep chasing it. And once you chase it to the joint and you feel like it's sort of gone, then you can give it that good, 30-second stretch, three times 30 seconds. And it's fun. It's really empowering.
Well, boys, what a little dream of a chat.
Are you going to ask the big question?
I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Yeah, we have a little fast five. Basically, you can't think, you just have to do.
You have to do it.
Okay,
and
you go quick first.
First one is guilty pleasure.
Cacao, hot chocolate.
Or red wine. Yeah.
Oh, red wine, yeah. Red wine.
Yeah. Mine would be weed, marijuana, which I'm not really smoking lately, but that's definitely my guilty pleasure.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Karaoke song.
Zombie.
Yes,
lately I've been
good
banging
tune.
What's that song? All I Need by Radiohead. I've been banging that lately. That's pretty good.
I love that. Favorite food? Actually, no. Let's go. Not favorite food. You can only eat one food for the rest of your life. What would that food be?
Ooh.
Steak.
But one food for the rest of my life.
Jeez.
I know I shouldn't be thinking about this. Hey, probably. I mean, it has to be a red meat, I guess. Yeah, I guess steak. Hey, I'll get over it after a few days. Though,
it hurts me to think about eating steak breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the rest of my life.
I do love a good burger. I love a good burger, like a good brisket burger with a brisket burger.
Brisket burger.
Yeah, you've sold me on that. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Right here.
Yeah.
Ooh.
This is the dream.
Yeah, right. To be honest, here, like I want to travel everywhere, but here just purely because we have some of the best food in the world. And when you travel around and you start to feel that the food's not the same quality, I feel it in my body.
Yeah.
Good, cheap, organic food. What more do you want? You know what I mean?
And home is a feeling. So
yeah,
I'm home wherever I am.
I love that.
You've hit the heartstrings. That was.
If I got one last one,
hit it.
It's a big one though.
I love it.
And it's more than one word. The world is listening for a minute. What would you tell them if the whole world was listening and tuning into you boys? What would you say? What's your advice?
Just love yourself. Yeah. Find a way to love yourself and look at yourself like honestly in the mirror and love yourself.
And one that helped me heaps, I've said it before on potties, is I heard it on Paul podcast, like let your heart be your compass, which actually changed my life because when you realize that the heart is the compass. And what made me change my career was hearing that and then thinking about me doing CHEK as a job, and then my heart like lit up.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's it. And I thought about all those other things, but I was honestly like a beacon that went buzz. So that's it with everything though. Like just taking the choice, like you guys move into a new space, we move into a new space.
Yeah.
Like let your heart be a compass and really listen to that and stay out of your mind a bit because your heart will tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that. It's so true.
Literally. Oh my God.
It's like Captain Jack Sparrow's compass.
Yeah.
Deep in here.
And what does your heart feel like? Like, what does your heart feel like when it gives you a yes?
Yeah.
Literally. Oh, it's been a little treat. Boys, where can everyone find you if they want to know more if they need a cleanse, if they want to do some online or even face-to-face work?
Yeah, Instagram, our website.
Instagram.
We've got a website, correctiveculture.com. And yeah, Instagram, you can DM either myself or Callan to work with us. And yeah.
We're sort of like we get to the DMs about once a week. we got to get better at that.
No, do you know what? Do you though? Like that's the thing. We're allowed
that's your day.
boundaries. Yeah,
Maybe that's your
absolutely.
checking DMs day, you know?
Yeah, you get people that write in and say, "How do I fix this?" You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
no
you're like,
idea,
oh.
never seen them. Like,
Yeah.
So it's like, but it's cool. But yeah, Corrective Culture Instagram, and we have a podcast, Corrective Culture podcast, for people that want to listen to us talking about this sort of shit all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
epic.
literally. Okay, well, thanks for joining us today, boys,
Thank you,
and have a
lads.
good day.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
Thanks
afternoon.
heaps
enjoyable.
for having us.
Happy
Thank
Friday.
you.
You.
Legend.
Yeah.
Damn!
Wow.
That was full on.
Seriously, there's so many key takeaways I took. First one is hitting the water hard and making sure that it's filtered. I feel like the boys, and you hear it all the time, right? We read it, we see it, just how important filtered water is. But it's just that reminder that I needed, to be honest, to just be like, make sure that we're getting that filtered water in.
Also, I love the way that Cal spoke about how our body is like, you know, it's like a spider web. It is all connected, and we know that, and we always hear about it. And it's not as simple as like, oh, I've got a sore knee. It's like, actually, check your ankle, check your quad, check your muscles around that. Even just like the whole, you know, rolling out thing.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. Like if you've got dry muscles, or even like you're dehydrated, of course your back's going to be tight.
Exactly.
It's not lubed up.
It's like it literally all makes sense, doesn't it? And it's like we as humans, we need to respect and love our home, which is our body, you know. We only get one. So it's like, let's actually put that time and effort into our body.
I've got a new ethos.
What is it?
I just want a long life.
Yeah. And a really good body. Like as in just a nice body that's going to be kind to us.
Do you drink enough water?
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
3 liters?
100%.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. I would say there's been times where I haven't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a massive, that is the one thing that I try and do every day. That is a practice.
I've started in the morning now, making sure I polish off that bottle before I leave for work.
That is good.
So I know I've got like a good 900 ml down me.
Yeah, and then honestly, it gets easier because like, it's like 7 a.m. and you've already drunk nearly a litre of water
like
and you've got 2 to go.
A quarter of what I needed to have had. Yeah, it's good stuff. But yes, we hope you get so much out of this. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, share it around.
Give us some love.
That big 5-star rating for all of those at home. But we'll tune in for the next episode with you.
Yes, farewell.
Peace.
Good as gold. Gouda as golda.